You have just begun episode 117. Do you ever feel like you aren't getting what you need? What do you do?
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everybody, to today's podcast. I hope you're doing well and gearing up for a great weekend. Hey, really quickly, why not order flowers or something nice for your spouse ahead of the weekend? Wouldn't that be super cool? Something like chocolate or flowers or his or her favorite food, or schedule a neat little break or do something this weekend just to surprise your spouse or your family or do something. Anyway, there's your challenge. I just wanted to say, how often do we think about things like that? How often do we get so busy with work that we can forget and take advantage of the people that we love? Why not go ahead and do something like that right now? Here's your challenge. Here's your reminder. And if you get lots of hugs from that, then send some hugs my way. Send some good feelings my way. I hope that really works out for you. So I received a message today on LinkedIn saying the following. And the names and places have been changed to protect the innocent, but here you go. It says, Jason, I'm glad you have transitioned to Elevate. If you ever find time in your busy days ahead, could you help me with one area that has always affected me as a growing superintendent? When I feel my project superintendent is not communicating with me and is not supportive of me, I'm not excited going to work. I have that worried feeling I hate to get. I feel low and I lose trust in them and want to make a change in my life. It happened in another company multiple times, and it's happening here with a couple leaders, one on my direct project and the other in a GS position. I have my contractor's license now and looking into branching out on my own once I find a good opportunity and think I'm close. I'm really independent and do very well when I can run the show, but as long as I feel talked down to or not appreciated, it hits me deeply. Even the small things like when the PS walks the site and asks me why is that worker not wearing gloves or where is that rodbuster's vest, the small things get to me. It's rare to get personal comments that are uplifting from this project superintendent. It's a big $250 million project with lots of personalities. I did well on a small $100 million project I ran. I trust in God and want to follow him closely. I'm here again wanting to make a change for that freedom to not worry about an inconsistent personality from his supervisor, but not sure if it's worth quitting again for the same reason. I would love to go on my own. Financial risk is there, and I don't want it to be pride and a bad leader to push me into a bad decision. Although it could be a good decision to slow down and see if I can make something on my own. Any help is very appreciated. Thank you. P.S. I'm really enjoying your podcast. So, first of all, thank you for the kind notes. I really hope that the podcast is helping, and so I appreciate that feedback. It really means a lot to me. And so, as promised, I'm going to respond to anyone asking us questions and make this podcast about you. So, today's podcast is for this listener. And I do want to say before I get into the rest of the content that we, as superintendents and as project managers, but especially as superintendents in this industry, we do not have to be grumpy and cold and impersonal. I've heard so many times somebody say, I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here for people to like me. I get that. I think what people are saying, and I would agree with them, is that you have to be an authoritative and decisive leader on the project site. But when it comes to direct reports, it's a little bit different. Meaning if you go out with a trade partner and you give them nice bathrooms, lunchroom, respect, communication, and you're a contract man or woman and you're like, hey, this is what we need and I need you to finish on time. I'll give you a flow, but I need you to finish on time. And if they don't like you, then absolutely you're not at work to make friends. You're not at work because you want people to like you, but you do want to have a good influence, right? Direct reports are a little bit different. While you are not in charge of the trade partners, the foreman, and the trade partners' superintendents' life and their careers and their performance reviews and their families, since you're not in charge of them, you can afford to say, I'm not here to make friends and I'm not here to be liked. And actually, you don't even need to be liked and to have friends, but you do have to care about people. If you have a direct report, you are in a position to help them with their relevance, their measurement, and their connection. And it really is up to you. People do not quit companies. They quit bad bosses. So if you're one of those little bit gruff superintendents saying, I don't need to make friends, well, that's fine. The difference is with trade partners and everybody else, you're not in charge of their careers, and your direct reports, you are. So you have to have more of a connection. And people don't just need money. Yeah, I mean, do you just need money? I mean, you don't need connection. You don't need to know that you're doing a good job. You don't need relevance. Well, maybe if that's the case, then fine, keep doing what you're doing. But if you need those things, then your direct reports need those things as well. And we need to be smart enough to come to work to say, okay, I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to be liked, but I am here to coach you, and I am here to give you what you need, Mr. and Mrs. Direct Report. And I think that's fine, but we get too polarized on one side or too polarized on the other. There's a really nice balance. So if you're a general superintendent or a field director or a super or a project superintendent, and you've learned from some of these industry leaders, some of these gruffer superintendents, this hard-nosed, cold outer exterior shell kind of leadership, there's a way to turn that into connection for individual people. And it's really important, because how good your team is how well you run the job. Now, you can increase productivity through fear, but is that sustainable? And the answer is no. There's going to be some ups and downs with that. In fact, let me just tell you one more thing. I do know of a very, very prominent superintendent that is absolutely amazing at what he does. And he always said to me, I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to be friends. I don't care if you like me, right? But the lack of having an interpersonal connection with people he was working with or superiors always hurt him. Meaning there were ups and downs. I don't feel connected. I'm upset about this. I'm quitting. I'm whatever. There were needs that he had that weren't being met, right? And then he would go out on the project site and give all of his direct reports exactly what they needed. But there was this gruff exterior like, oh, I'm not here to make friends. His leadership style was that he would give the people next to him what they needed, but not do any of those interpersonal things with his supervisors, and it always caused drama. I've also seen other leaders that will give their supervisors and their equals the things that they need, but then will crap on their people below them and not give them the things they need and say things like, I'm not here to make friends. I don't care if anybody likes me. Well, I don't care what anybody says, meaning they can say whatever they want. But really what we need to be doing is managing the interpersonal connections, managing our superiors, our equals, and managing our subordinates, our direct reports, and giving them measurement, relevance, and connection, whether you like people or you don't. And if you don't like people, may God have mercy on your soul. But if you're anywhere in that spectrum, like, you really need to think about, am I giving my people what they need? And even if you're from the old school, not old person, that's a protected class, but old school, where you think, it's not my job to do that, you really need to take another look and make sure that you're giving people connection, or else they'll quit, or else they'll quit in place, which means that they're costing you time and money, and they're not doing their jobs. So that's really what we need to get to in our careers. And I would say that it's one of our top priorities, because what better thing can a general superintendent or project superintendent do than work with his or her people? It's absolutely number one priority. So before we go any further, I want to talk about some things that have been just really super clear to me lately. I love the comment that this listener mentioned above about staying close to God. I rely on revelation for everything. If I need help with something, I go to the temple. Right now they're closed, so I just walk around, or I get on my knees and pray, or I meditate, or I climb up a mountain with one of my good buddies, or whatever. But I definitely need to stay close to heaven with anything I need. I'd be absolutely lost without it. And so I would say anything, except for obviously murder and breaking the law, but anything in your life could be right, even if other people tell you that it's not wise or financially wise, could be right if it's inspired. Meaning if it's inspired and it 100% is sanctioned by God and where you're supposed to be going, then I would say absolutely follow that path. And that works for us in construction as well. I've done podcasts before where I've said the building talks to you. Every superintendent knows what I'm talking about. Every superintendent has had the building talk to them or had an intuition or a sixth sense about something, and we have to stay connected to that to be successful. So I'm really excited about that, the direction that we've been getting lately. The year 2020 has been amazing, and I hope it's amazing for you. So here's some conflict for you. Every direct report has needs that have to be met. And so let me tell you a story, and I've told you this before, I think in a podcast, or it may have been in a book or whatever, but I once had a director that was in charge of me when I was doing a lot of traveling throughout the United States, and it was just not working out. we did not get along. It wasn't a good relationship. And I definitely wasn't getting connection, relevance, or measurement. I didn't even know about those things back then, but I'm like, why is our relationship so bad? There wasn't communication. There wasn't connection. I didn't know how I tied to the group. I didn't know how to measure whether or not I was winning. I always have been in a situation where I just knew what to do. And so people just left me alone, and I hated that. And I was away from that department in a geographical sense as well. So I got a text from this person one day that said, whatever, I can't even remember what it was, but ... And then at the end of it, there was a little J. And I grew up with my mother and my sister calling me Jay or JJ. It was a term of endearment. And when I got this text, I said, oh my gosh, this person is trying to connect with me on a one-on-one basis. Oh man, I can forgive anything that's happened. I'm okay. Man, that's super nice. I feel connected. That person actually knows me. Like, my heart just melted. I was so happy. I was smiling from ear to ear. And then I saw it on a different device and realized that it was just like a thumbs up emoji or something like that didn't translate to my phone. It just showed up as a J. So that person didn't actually even mean to send it to me as a J. And I'm like, oh, okay. But that moment helped me realize how much I was starving for connection with somebody, starving for relevance, and starving to measure and know that I'm winning on a constant basis. And that has always stuck with me. And then let me tell you another story about a department that we've been working with. So first, we went into the department and we shook some things up. We got people out of their normal roles. We got meetings working in a very remarkable way and really assessed where everybody was. We identified the 4 leaders, put them on an equal playing field, allowed them to really lead the entire group, and started heading into principle-based leadership based around some of Patrick Lencioni's methods. And we focused on healthy conflict, or trust first, then healthy conflict, then setting goals together and holding each other accountable through really remarkable meetings and engaging in this wonderful culture. And as we go around the room in these meetings, most of the comments are, man, I've never had an environment like this. I've never been around people that care about each other like this. And the reason is because the people side of things is intentional. These 4 leaders will spend every week and talk about a different person or a different group of people, not negatively, but talking about, are we giving them relevance? Are we giving them measurement? And are we forming connections? And there's nothing wrong with it being intentional because they make it happen. It's wonderful and it works, right? So it's a really, really neat way to go about management as leaders, to make it intentional and to talk about their people. And so we have mentors for everybody. Everyone has those 3 things. It's scaled through the department. We have wonderful, remarkable meetings, and everybody loves their job, and we have high ratings. And in fact, when we hire people, we have them go through this meeting first and foremost. And when people that are wanting to hire on hear us, they're like, I've never seen that. I've never seen a team work together like that. I've never seen those kind of deep discussions. I've really never experienced anything like this. And you guys seem really, really close and very, very happy. And they want to come to work in this department. It's really, really cool. So those are 2 stories about how somebody needs to really get connection, and how when you give connection, then entire groups of people, teams, companies, departments can really transform and take remarkable steps towards just really wonderful performance. So let me talk about the principles here. And I know I've covered them before, but I could start my own business just in doing this, just this focus point, just this focal point of how do we get employee engagement increased in organizations? I could change my entire website, marketing, anything else like that, and say, this is all I'm going to do because this topic is so important. So let's talk about it today. It's the 3rd time I've mentioned it to you on these podcasts, but it's so important that we could mention it 18 times and it wouldn't be a big deal. So we've all heard of the 3 signs of a miserable job, or the book, The Truth About Employee Engagement. Same book, different titles. Everybody needs a connection, meaning they cannot be anonymous. Autonomy is different from anonymity. People need human connection, meaning they need from their supervisors, they need to be known. They need somebody in that team, or from their supervisor, they need somebody to actually take a personal interest, to know a little bit about their family, to ask how things are doing, how they're really doing, sometimes show up to a baseball game, go out to dinner, go out on the boat, whatever. They also need to know how they're relevant. If somebody is doing paperwork or a monotonous task or daily reports or whatever, we have to explain their relevance, why what they do is relevant. Let's take daily reports. Who listening to this podcast doesn't hate daily reports? I know I do, but as soon as you go through a court case and you actually have to go through litigation and you have to be on the stand and you're going back to these reports, then you know why it's relevant. And then you'll always be perfect with that. We've seen that time and time again. And a project manager has to stick with a case from a construction project, and they're fanatical about documentation and paperwork because it is relevant. So how about we explain that in the beginning? We need to explain that from a financial standpoint, from an owner standpoint, from a historical documentation standpoint, from a legal standpoint, from a manpower count standpoint. How much better off would we be with tasks and processes if we explain why they're relevant and why a human being performing in a role with tasks is relevant? It will be a game changer. So the other thing is measurement. If somebody can't come to work and go home feeling like I won today, then they're not going to be happy. And it isn't, oh, okay, I came to work, I opened up the gate, I filled out my to-do list, I did my daily report, I walked around, I talked to 3 people. Like, no, it's not boring like that. It's like, did I create a wonderful customer service moment today? Did I scale communication effectively today? Did I make a difference today for safety? Something that's actually meaningful, and it doesn't even have to be too many. Like for an assistant superintendent, I'm like, if we have safety presence in the field, and if everybody knows what's going on, if we have complete stability in the field, then you've won today. And for the project manager, if we have everybody on the site supported with what they need and roadblocks being removed, you won today. Project superintendent, if you're helping to see and forecast the future of what should be done, you can never tell what is going to happen, but of what should be done, and you're allocating manpower and materials and you're creating flow, you won today. We really need to make sure that we give people that measurement. So let me tell you just a cute little trick that I got when this was rolled out to me. So I've said this before, but I got a little cube and I'm holding it in front of me in preparation for this podcast. And it has let me give you an example. On one side, it says irrelevance. And on the bottom, it gives you a question that you can give to your direct reports. How can I help? So let me read these for you right now. On this cube, one is irrelevance. How can I help you? How can I help? The other one on one side is anonymity. Teach me or show me something. Like actually go connect with them. Irrelevance. Say thank you. Offer a compliment. Immeasurement. Give objective feedback to somebody. Anonymity. Tell me about this. Tell me about your life. Tell me about ... Measurement. Celebrate goals achieved on the team and actually give somebody credit for where credit is due. So this little cube is designed to put in your truck or your car. And if you want one of these, reach out to me. What you're supposed to do is put it on your dash or on your desk somewhere, and then every day just toss it, and whatever it lands on, go do that with one of your people. Does that sound silly? Well, it actually kind of works. We have to make sure that we have intentionality behind this, just like with everything in life. And so I have on my leader standard work, on my to-do list every day, have I mentored somebody? Have I given feedback? Have I encouraged remarkable meetings? And have I given somebody connection, relevance, and measurement today? And I don't close off that activity for today until one of those things is done and I've actively reached out to a direct report or somebody on my team. Now, actually, I don't close out the activity on Microsoft To Do. I click it, I take it off today, and I schedule it again for tomorrow, being due tomorrow. And then tomorrow it'll say, this is due today. I go do that. I take it off my, my day, the active day queue, and I schedule it for tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And so every day I have a system to where I can go intentionally give somebody connection, relevance, and measurement. And it's not insincere, it's intentional. There's a difference between insincere and intentional. So let's go down into the meat of this podcast. Leaders have to intentionally give their people these things. They have to explain how they're winning, tell them why they're relevant, and become acquainted with them personally. So what do you do if you're on the wrong end of this and a supervisor, a general superintendent, a director, a PM, and anybody doesn't get this and doesn't give you what you need? Let's find out how to deal with this. Well, first of all, before I go into some of this content, I want to say that some people just can't be helped. Some people are stuck in that mentality of it's not my job to take care of people. they're wrong. And I hope people like that really fade out of this industry and continue to be wonderful builders, but also take care of people. The best builders also take care of their people. And we really want you to understand that you might be in an impossible situation. We'll talk about that too. But for the most part, and for the first part, and the first thing you need to do is you need to see what you can do to fix the situation. So let's talk about these one by one. My superintendent, my supervisor is not communicating with me. You can ask to schedule time with them to interface daily or weekly. You can say, hey, can we do a field walk twice a week or every day? Will you come and mentor me and talk to me? And proximity will help with that relationship. Can you get into more formalized huddles where you're together every day in the foreman huddle or the worker huddle or your team huddle? Ask for more communication. Consider saying, hey, I'm somebody that thrives on communication. If you don't like to communicate too much, I understand that, but could we create something that's easy for you and effective for me to where we have a win-win? Or maybe it's a phone call every day. And it's very presumptuous. It sounds very presumptuous to ask for that, but you have to manage your supervisors as well. Meaning you have to get to a point where you're confident enough to do that, unless the person is just a complete jerk and has a horrible RBF, in which case maybe you can't do anything about it and you just have to leave. But let's just keep going through this. My supervisor is not supportive of me. Well, ask for the support. Make it clear what your strengths and weaknesses are and ask for what you need. As soon as you feel talked down to or not appreciated, it hits you deep, was another comment. Well, tell him or her how you want to be talked to. It sounds like you, the person asking for advice that I'm answering on this podcast, it sounds like you have a need for significance and that you have a need for love and connection. And if there's any way to switch that to growth and contribution, where you're growing and you're at least gaining something out of it, or you're contributing to the team, then maybe switch your focus there and try and get significance and love and connection from home. But if there's no way to switch that, meaning you're not in that position, you're not around people, you're not around circumstances, and you're not on a job where you can turn this into a growth situation and where you can actually contribute and switch, flip the coin and start to contribute to this person and give to this person, then it's really frustrating because you're stuck in significance and love and connection and you don't get what you need and you go into that crazy 8 cycle that I talked about the other day. Okay, let me keep going. I trust in God and want to follow him closely. So this is super important. This is going to answer all of your questions of what to do. But first I would say, make sure that you're doing your part to bring that relationship together instead of where your supervisor is pulling away or being mean or not connecting. Don't you automatically just mirror that. The first line of defense or offense rather would be, hey, these are the things I need. Can we set something up? It takes a lot of humility, a lot of courage, but it would be the first thing you want to try. But after that, stay close to God. This is super important. You need to find and follow an inspired path on what to do. But you can't really listen well to the inspired path if you're in the crazy 8 cycle, or if, I'm drawing with my finger the ups and downs. When I'm up, I'm up. When I'm down, I'm super sad and I don't reach out. If you're in a dark cycle, it's going to be harder for you to reach out and ask for help and to get into an inspired path. So I would say you have to talk to somebody. You have to get some coaching. And once you're out of that dark cycle, that low cycle, and somewhere in between or in a sound state of mind, talk to people, get a coach, talk to your spouse, find an inspired path, and make sure all of it is aligned with your core purpose in life, your sole purpose in life, and you will not go wrong. Now, if anybody on this podcast is listening and saying, what does he mean by core purpose or sole purpose? Meaning, why are you here on this earth? What are you doing? For me, Jason Schroeder, I am here to teach, to inspire, and to lift. I have a large family. I'm going to set them all up with businesses so that we can give to the world. We're going to take care of foster kids, and I'm going to have a company large enough and make enough money to where I can donate to build a new facility for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And I'm going to change the industry in construction from coast to coast to respect workers, train leaders, and preserve families at home. That's it. That's my core purpose in life. If anything I do doesn't lead me in that direction, I'm not going to do it. And if you don't know your soul purpose or your core purpose, I would say go buy some books like The Focal Point, Unbeatable Mind, and some of these others that I could recommend if you reach out to me, and go do the exercises. Unbeatable Mind is probably my favorite for this. Go do the exercises to find out what is your core purpose in life. What were you put on this earth to do? And if you don't know that, then it's going to be a lot harder on you. So let's go to 2 more comments and then we'll continue. I have my contractor's license and looking into branching out on my own since I find a good opportunity and I think I'm close. That was one of the comments. So again, it sounds like you already know what you need to do. And if it's inspired, so that's question number 1 for you. If it's inspired, then you need to head in that direction. If it's in line with your core purpose, then you need to head in that direction. And there isn't just one way to start a business. Here's what I would say. Go pick or find or ask for the top 5 business books about your niche or the best podcast, or find a mentor and go read those starting right now to the time that you think you might leave your organization or that you might have to make a decision. Because the adage of you have to just quit and go all in right now or don't quit your job, neither of those are true. There are so many things that you can do. You can go do a side hustle, you can transition, you can prepare, and you can have an intelligent plan that allows you to financially sustain you and your family while you go start your venture. You do have to make sure that there is a market for it and that you can sell this service to people and that you can support your family. But if it's inspired, it's a sure deal. So you need to live your purpose. So go find out, go do the research for businesses, or if you're transitioning to a different company, you're not starting your own business, go make sure that you can achieve the things that you need while doing that. So here's a cautionary tale. So many people try to fix with positions, with raises, with promotions, a different problem. Most of the time, people aren't living their core purpose. They're not fulfilled in life. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're supposed to do. And they don't have fulfillment because they don't have connection, relevance, and they don't know how to measure if they're winning. So the same thing, even if you work for yourself, your direction comes from God at this point, but you still need connection, which you automatically have. You still need to know how you're relevant to society and others of God's children. And you need to know if you're winning. Are you winning according to your core purpose? It all comes back to these 3 things, everything. So you need to find out what this is. And so go do the research and make sure that you have a plan for where you're headed. So lots of research. And let me tell you a couple of things. One of the best books that I read, which I feel like I was inspired to read, was Killing Sacred Cows. So I read 2 books, Side Hustle and Killing Sacred Cows. And I read a number of books by Jim Collins about business. I've read books, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy. I've, just lots of books about LLCs. It's really kind of shaped my opinions when it comes to business. But the Side Hustle was great because it gets you started and it tells you that you don't have to quit your job right away. The other one, Killing Sacred Cows, it really kills those sacred cows that prevents you from taking your leave. One of the main ones was taking out your retirement savings. So if anybody's freaking out on me right now, good. We'll cover that in just a minute. So here's one more question that I would answer before you make your decision about what to do. Is your contracting business, is your business that you want to go to, or the company you want to go to, or the change you want to make, or quitting your job, is it a destination or an escape? If it's an escape, you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. If it's a destination, then you're probably doing it for the right reasons. Let me explain. If you're just changing because you don't like your supervisor, but you love the company, you're probably escaping and making a rash decision. But if you are leaving to a company, to a venture, to a different organization, to a different boss, or to a different change of circumstances or a different industry because you want to be there, because it's in your core purpose, and because it's inspired, then you're on the right track. So that's one other measurement. That's what I would ask you. And then let me give you a couple of myths here. There's a myth of leaving jobs. People will say, oh, you've bounced around quite a bit. And I will give you 100%. When somebody's interviewing for a job, they will look at how often you've bounced around because that shows disloyalty. But it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. I've changed careers. I've changed companies twice in my life. And each time it was fantastic for me. And if somebody gives me a hard time, I'm like, okay, what's the hard time about? I took care of my family. I'm in a better spot. I make more money. I'm living my core purpose. What's wrong here? We do not owe loyalty to large contracting firms. We do not owe loyalty to large companies, period, end of story. Now, if you're talking about honesty in a fair day's work and talking good about them and upholding the brand, absolutely we owe that. But loyalty, you owe loyalty to your family. You owe loyalty to God. You owe loyalty to yourself. You do not owe loyalty to a large company. I remember my father-in-law saying, Jason, there's no such thing as you doing a multi-billion-dollar company a favor. Think of that. This poor little old, oh, I'm a $5 billion company. I'm a $10 billion company. Even if it's a $150 million company. Oh, I need you. Please do me this favor. Stay on for 5 weeks. What? That's a $5 billion company. And you're a person with at most $250,000 in retirement with a family to feed. There's no such thing as this myth of loyalty. You don't owe those companies anything. And when somebody leaves an organization and they're like, this is better for my family, even if I'm in the same company, I'm like, great. Like, I'm glad that you're following your dream and taking care of your family. I'm not upset at all. But how many times in companies do we try and guilt somebody? Oh, you're leaving us. Oh, you're a traitor. Oh, oh, you decided to go to the dark side. Or they get mad at you and they blackball you or things like that. Why? Why? The answer is because they were only selfishly thinking about themselves. They were only selfishly thinking about money. They were only selfishly thinking about the company and not you. And I personally care about people and not companies. Do not, except for the companies that I consult with, let me be clear about that. Do not get into the myth of loyalty or being afraid of leaving or transitioning jobs. It's a myth. The other thing is reciprocity. Oh, they've been so good to me, and oh, I get paid well, and oh, I owe them that, and I told the team, whoa. Again, there is no amount of reciprocity that is going to release you from your duty to do what God tells you to do and what you need to do for your family. So get out of those myths. If you need to change your boss, if you need to transfer projects, if you need to coach your boss, if you need to leave companies, or if you need to quit and start your own business, then go get it done as long as it's in your core purpose, your sole purpose, and it's inspired, and you have a plan. So that's my recommendation. Here's the last comment. Wanting to make a change for that freedom to not worry about an inconsistent personality from a supervisor, but not sure if it's worth quitting again for the same reason. I would love to go on my own. Financial risk is there, and I don't want it to be pride and a bad leader to push me into a bad decision. Okay, so you might just hate having a boss. I do. I can tell you that. Always in my life, I've hated just being talked down to and being bossed around. I don't like it. It's just not me. For some people, it's great. The only boss that I've ever had that I've just absolutely loved having that was just directly in control of me was Brad Nelson. I don't mind saying his name. He's the best human being, the best person, the best boss, the best leader I've ever met. And anybody in the Valley knows what I'm talking about. I loved working with him. Everyone else, I was always kicking against the pricks a little bit because it was like, this is a nightmare. This is a nightmare. I don't like being talked down to. There have been others that were decent, but I've never liked that. Some people are just like bred or born to be entrepreneurs and to not have that. You might have that. Okay. And just remember that the comment of an inconsistent personality from a supervisor, that's a legitimate thing. People don't quit companies, they quit their bosses. Now, let me talk about the current condition really quickly. People feel stuck, and you feel stuck. They're afraid to go out on their own, and you are afraid. And they feel obligated to stay, and they feel it's their fault, and it's me. No, let's look at the facts objectively, and let's make a decision, a win-win to where everybody can be happy. Can you be replaced? Absolutely. So they can replace you and get what they need, and you can go somewhere else and get what you need. Or if we're terminating an employee because they're not a fit, they can go somewhere else and get what they need, and we can get a replacement and get what we need. There really isn't a lot of merit to, oh, we have to stick this out. We're stuck with this, but we have to keep going. No, we don't. We just need to change it and get everybody into a win-win situation. So here's the challenge. Find your soul purpose, S-O-U-L, or your core purpose. Follow inspiration and be very prayerful or connected to the universe or whatever you do personally for revelation. Make sure you're getting guidance in your life. Make sure that you are trying to fix those situations with your supervisor first. But ultimately, get what you need. Otherwise, let me put it like this. If you don't get what you need, you're disrespecting yourself and you're disrespecting your family And so the reason that we're like, oh, no, I'll stay, or I'm not going to fix this, or I'm not going to leave, is because we're face to face in front of a supervisor where manipulatively they've either criticized us or praised us in the past, and we feel an obligation to have that human connection and take care of them. What you really need to do is go into that email or that text or that interview or whatever, that meeting with your supervisor, when you say, I'm going to leave or I need a change, you need to have a picture of your family in your hand and be like, okay, I'm talking to all three of these people. I'm talking to my current supervisor, I'm talking to my spouse, and I'm talking to God. And who do you owe more loyalty to? You owe loyalty to God, your family, and you don't owe loyalty to your supervisor that you're talking about. You owe honesty. You owe respect. You owe their brand. You owe a hard day's work. You owe all of those things, but you don't owe your loyalty, unless we define loyalty differently. So you have to understand that if you don't make a change and get what you need, you're disrespecting yourself and you're disrespecting your family. And if you want to fix the situation, just tell them to hire me and I'll come up and I'll help build the team and I'll get everybody heading in a good direction. So that's my quick plug. The other thing you can do is change your company or start your own business, but I would not, or you can hide, which some people do, which I wouldn't recommend because that doesn't lend itself to long-term happiness. And in the United States, you can make it work. I will tell you that if you add value and if there is a market and you can connect to customers, there's nothing to worry about. You need to go do what you do and take care of your family. So here's one last comment from this listener. He said, for me, I need a deeper connection with my supervisor and it needs to be constructive feedback. I totally agree. People, direct reports, need a connection with you as their supervisor, period, end of story. And if you don't get that, I'm not going to criticize you or dislike you or call you out, but I will say that you're in for a lot of failure and you're not going to be as effective as you can be. And at the end of your life, you're probably going to regret some of the relationships that you've had. Now, am I perfect? No. But am I striving? Yes. So if you're an amazing builder, and if you've been taught by some of the best builders in the industry, and you say things like, I'm not here to make friends, that's fine. But go have a connection with your direct reports and give them what they need. Your spouse deserves it. You deserve it. Everyone does. And you know that you need those things. So why wouldn't you give it to your direct reports? And direct reports, if you know you need it, then go get it. And if you're not getting it, change your circumstances, take massive action, and go get what you need to be a whole and complete human being. And if you're stuck, and if honestly you can't do anything, then get your connection, your relevance, and your measurement from God or from the universe or from whatever thing you believe in. But let me tell you a quick story. Some supervisors don't know that they're doing it. When I was at the cancer center, I had Jake and Katrina with me, and they're fantastic. And there were 2 weeks there where I was just different, but I didn't notice it. Turns out I was actually clinically depressed. And they called me out and they said, something's wrong with, actually Katrina grabbed me and said, hey, something's wrong with you, Jason. And immediately I realized that I was chemically imbalanced. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get this fixed. So I started exercising. I started reading books. I got some help. And I said, all right, let's all do lunch together for the next little while. And immediately the tables turned. We all got our connection and life was so happy from that point on. All I needed was some coaching. And every now and then I get that nudge. So there's nothing wrong with you coaching your supervisor. Sometimes people have a hard time too. Sometimes your supervisor's just doing his or her best. Sometimes you need to reach out and give them the benefit of the doubt. So I hope this answers the question. If it doesn't, please let me know. We'll continue. But the vision for this is that you get what you need and you live a remarkable life. Here's what I always say. There's no reason to not live a remarkable life. Let's get it done. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.